Triple ripple, triple play, 3 in a row without commercial interruption.
Here's what's happening, baby. The Beatles!
Hey, welcome to Critically Disdained. Today we're going to cover some Beatles history in honor of their anniversary of the first visit to the United States. So without further ado, let's get right into it. 1964 would mark a major shift in rock and roll, as well as music in general would be changed forever because the British invasion, led by the Beatles, had begun as they touched down in Kennedy Airport. To get to this point, though, it was an uphill struggle for the group, but once their music started playing in the United States, all the floodgates opened up and their careers skyrocketed to heights that they never could have imagined. The overall appeal of the Beatles came down to quite a few factors that didn't just involve their sound, but it also included their cheeky behavior, their ineffable wit, and a style all of their own.
Could you please sing something?
No! Sorry.
Next question.
It turns out that you can sing. No, we need money first.
When talking about the success of the Beatles, though, it is important to remember that as unique as they were as a band at the time for their sound and their look, marketing them was not easy because they were so different from other artists of their time. As revered as they would become, their success would not have happened without a very particular important person, Brian Epstein, who was the Beatles' manager.
Their manager's name is Mr. Brian Epstein.
Brian Epstein.
Epstein, what was the first name? B-R-Y-A-N-D-I-A.
The manager's name is Brian Epstein. Now, I'm terribly sorry he can't take any calls right now. He's waiting for a call from London.
He implemented certain things in the Beatles' appearance that would help market the band. Before Brian Epstein, the Beatles embraced what was called the Teddy look, which more or less was slicked back hair and a leather jacket. And this look was fitting for a rock group of the time, but Brian Epstein really wanted to take them up a notch, so he decided to give them a more professional look and appearance that would help the band be more marketable. So once Brian came on board, the band let their hair hang loose and they all wore matching suits and they just looked absolutely fantastic together, which their hair at the time was considered long. By today's standard, it would seem short and not too much of a big deal, but at the time, the shaggy haircut that they had was outrageous.
Another question. Do you hope to get a haircut at all? No, thanks.
I had one yesterday.
That's no lie.
After the formation of the Beatles in 1960 and their multiple residencies in Germany, Ringo Starr joined the band in 1962, completing the classic lineup that we all know and love today. They continued to make a name for themselves, playing clubs and local venues. Then came 1963. They managed to release 2 records. Please Please Me, which would not touch the American markets because America didn't want it. They didn't think that they could market the Beatles, claiming that our market is just not going to fit, is what they said. Then in November of that same year, their second record, With the Beatles, came out and also did really well in the UK as the first one did, but America still would not touch the Beatles because they didn't feel that they would make it in their market. Then Providence would strike. The boys recorded and released their single, I Want to Hold Your Hand, in England in November and in America in December of that year. And DJs across the country started playing this song independently of each other, and it was an absolute hit. And by mid-January of 1964, it had topped the Billboard Hot 100, and Beatlemania had officially begun in the United States. February 7th, 1964 was the official start of the British invasion. Having seen immense success with their single, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and the subsequent success of their already previously released records, they were now welcomed with open arms at Kennedy Airport by more than 3,000 fans. The next 2 weeks would be like a dream for the band, with the speed that they were whisked from one place to another, avoiding absolutely crazy fans in the process. First up on the circuit was the Ed Sullivan Show in New York. Now, for those people that don't know what the Ed Sullivan Show was, it was a variety show that had a major impact on American culture. Performing on the show gave artists career-changing potential. It helped launch careers of comedians Richard Pryor and George Carlin and was the medium that brought Elvis's shaking hips into American homes. Now, on any given week during the show's peak, it would entertain approximately 50 million viewers on any average night. But the night that the Beatles played, it had an estimated 73 million viewers, which for television at the time, this was a new record, hosting 40% of the American population. This was huge for the country and unprecedented at the time.
Now, yesterday and today, our theater's been jammed with newspapermen and hundreds of photographers from all over the nation, and these veterans agree with me that the city never has witnessed the excitement stirred by these youngsters from Liverpool who call themselves the Beatles. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!
After the Ed Sullivan Show in New York, the Beatles were taken to Washington, D.C., where on February 11th they would play their first American concert for 20,000 fans. Now, one of the fun things that you can see when you watch the footage from this concert is the stand that Ringo had to play on, it didn't move on its own. So every song or two, they would have to stop, Ringo would have to get off, they'd have to turn the thing, and they'd get back on, and then they would continue to play. And they would have to do this every song or two. And it's just a lot of fun. So if you watch the footage, you can actually see them having to stop and make this happen. Because they were right in the middle of everybody. So they were right in the center of the floor, and everybody was surrounded around them. So for everybody to be able to get a look, they made sure to keep them moving in a circle so that everybody got a chance to watch the Beatles at that concert. Now, the final big performance of the first U.S. visit for the Beatles was in Florida, and once again, it was on the Ed Sullivan Show and set another record for 70 million viewers. There were other meetings for the Beatles throughout their stay in the States, like when they went to the British Embassy, where they were unfortunately manhandled, and somebody had actually cut off a piece of Ringo's hair. It was not a pleasant experience, and it solidified their reasons for trying to escape from crazy fans, because it just showed that they were not going to be respected by fans that were able to get close to them. Now, why was a visit to the States for the Beatles so important? A big part of it was the American market helped shape the success of an artist. At that point in time, if you could make it big in America, then that was it. You were in, and you were going to be successful if America would take you into the markets and if you succeeded. And that's exactly what they did. Now, they were on the consumer's radar, and people wanted more of the Beatles. They could not get enough of the Beatles, which they got 6 more years of the Beatles before they broke up. Now, even if you're not a fan of the Beatles, they did a lot for the recording industry and implemented new ideas into the recording process. And granted, some of the effects that they invented actually were on accident. But historically, a lot of musical innovations actually were created on accident. But at any rate, the Beatles did change music forever. And even though they were a seasoned band from the amount of shows that they had played in Germany and at home, America was what really launched them into the mainstream, making February 1964 a time to be remembered. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want more Beatles content, please let me know down in the comments. I'm usually a little hesitant to do Beatles videos because it's all been done before. It's hard to find a new angle to talk about the Beatles, especially if you're a Beatles fan. What I've talked about here today is probably not new, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more of this, let me know down in the comments. And if you like Beatles content and you like what you hear here, don't forget to subscribe and let me know. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
First of all, I want to congratulate you. You've been a fine audience despite severe provocation. Now,